It's a January morning, 1347. You wake up before dawn, and the first thing you see is your own breath. Indoors. There's ice on the inside of your walls. The fire, the only thing standing between your family and the cold, died sometime in the night. Right now, bringing it back is the most important job in your world. No furnace, no insulation, no glass in the windows, just wooden shutters and 6 more months of cold. Your house is, at best, a windbreak. And here's the most absurd part. 1,000 years earlier, the Romans had central heating, warm floors, hot baths. Then their empire collapsed, and Europe simply forgot for 1,000 years. So how did 40 million peasants survive months of freezing cold with nothing but a fire pit? The answer involves wool, livestock, strategic sleeping, and more cuddling than you'd expect. Start with the heart of the house. One open fire in the middle of one room for everything. Cooking, light, heat. No chimney, by the way. Chimneys were luxury tech. The smoke just hung there under the roof, slowly turning your walls, your lungs, and your life expectancy black. That fire never went out, ever. Matches wouldn't exist for another 500 years, and restarting a fire at dawn with flint, straw, and numb fingers was misery. So every night you banked it, buried the embers under ash to keep them alive until morning. Remember the curfew bell from our last episode? Cover your fire. That's this. Firewood was the winter currency. Most peasants couldn't legally cut trees. The forest belonged to the Lord. You could only take dead branches you could reach with a hook or a crook, which reportedly is where by hook or by crook comes from. Energy policy written by shepherds. Now the genius part. The animals lived with you. One end of the house for the family, the other for the cow, the pigs, the chickens. Not just to protect them, a single cow gives off about as much heat as a modern space heater. It was a furnace you could milk. Add thick thatch on the roof, walls of woven sticks and mud, a floor of rushes, low doorways and tiny windows, and your hovel could hold a survivable temperature. Survivable, not comfortable. Around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, if the fire behaved. Layer 2, wool. Not as a sweater, as a way of life. Linen against the skin, then wool, wool and more wool. Tunics, hoods, cloaks, stockings. Wool has a superpower. It keeps you warm even when it's soaking wet. Cotton kills. Wool forgives. At night, the whole family shared one bed. Parents, children, sometimes grandma, under one pile of blankets and cloaks. Body heat was the most reliable heating system in Europe. Privacy wasn't a concept. Survival was. Food was a math problem you solved in autumn. November 11th, Martinmas, was slaughter day. Any animal you couldn't afford to feed through winter became salted meat, sausage, and lard. You can't grow anything in January. You eat the autumn, slowly, for 6 months. The daily menu? Pottage. A pot of peas, beans, cabbage, and grain simmering over the fire, refilled day after day, for months. Historians estimate some families ate versions of the same stew 100 days in a row. The original meal prep. Nobody was excited about it. And then there was the boldest strategy of all. Sleep through it. Winter days were short, work was scarce, food was precious, so people simply stayed in bed. As late as the 1800s, French officials reported whole villages that essentially shut down and half hibernated until spring. Not laziness, thermodynamics. Because here's the thing, this system worked. Until it didn't. Around the year 1300, the climate itself turned. Europe slid into what historians call the Little Ice Age. Winters got longer, colder, meaner. The margins, already thin, started disappearing. In 1315, it rained all summer. Then again in 1316, crops drowned, the harvest failed twice, and Europe starved. The Great Famine killed up to 1 person in 10 across the north. Peasants ate the seed grain, then the plow oxen. They ate next year to survive this one. Ordinary winters were quieter killers. The old, the sick, the newborn. A cold snap was a culling. Parish records list the rest. Travelers frozen in ditches half a mile from home. Shepherds lost in whiteouts on hills they'd known their entire lives. Historians can read medieval burial records like a thermometer. When the winter was hard, the burials doubled. But 12 days a year, the misery stopped. From Christmas to Epiphany, work was forbidden by custom and by church law. The Lord fed the village. There was ale, music, and a fire bigger than usual. 12 days of warmth in the darkest stretch of the year. People planned their whole winter around it. And when spring finally came, actual spring, when the ground thawed, the stores were empty, and the new food hadn't grown yet. In many places they called it the hungry gap. Surviving winter just meant qualifying for the final exam. Today, winter is a setting on your wall. 21 degrees. 70 if you're American. Your great-grandparents' 6-month enemy is now an aesthetic. Cozy season. Sweater weather. Hot chocolate by the window. If your heating dies tonight, it's an inconvenience. You file a complaint, you book a repairman, you sleep at a friend's place. For a medieval family, your radiator, any radiator, would have been worth more than their house. And we've lost something they had too. Almost nobody alive in the developed world knows what their own body can actually endure. They live through conditions that would hospitalize us. In wool, by a fire pit, eating 100-day soup. The human design hasn't changed, just the settings. Out of all the upgrades civilization ever shipped, out of everything that stands between you and 1347, reliable heat in winter might be the single least appreciated one. It ended a war your species fought every single year for 10,000 years. So tonight, when your radiator clicks on and you don't even notice, that click is the sound of the longest siege in human history, ending again, quietly, on schedule. If you enjoyed this, you'll want to know how anyone found anything before maps existed, because the answer is not they asked for directions. Subscribe so you don't miss it.